See, dumb guys don't understand. They do that on the club level fight. Opponents, because they say, yo, I don't want to get knocked out by this guy, so I'm going to come in heavy. They're going to need to fight because they got to take the fight because they can kind of get the numbers. That's what they do on the lower end. But now, they flipping the strip and doing it on the high end. You know what I'm saying? So that practice, you will start seeing that a lot now. But how we doing it now?
No, it wasn't like he put a whole bunch. They only found specks of that shit.
No. He battery.
No, I get.
Given how many fights he has won, and the possibility that he has been using performance-enhancing drugs for many of them, without the boxing governing bodies noticing, Gervonta Davis' situation has gotten really bad. He went from having a contentious draw in his most recent fight to facing another accusation from his trainer that he is guilty of PED intake. Calvinford made this unexpected revelation as a result of his relationship with Dan Davis, following Tank's battle with Lamont Roach.
You guys calm down and listen to me.
Hey, come on now. We're trying to get it. There you go. That's what you do. There you go. Stay focused. That was good.
Since the start of his career, Tank has never engaged in combat without Calvinford by his side.
It just went down. He just, like you said, it was. We looked at 3 rounds. Brian was calling out, yo, I need 3.
When Coach Calvinford told Gervonta Davis to be more careful during one of the later rounds, Tank simply yelled, "Calvin, calm down and listen to me." This was considered rude by many in the boxing community, and one fan said, "I pity that man so much." The first time it happened last week, the outcome was visible to everyone. However, what stood out the most was Tank's random disrespect toward his coach.
As someone that's had Tank since basically he was a pup and you've raised him as a boxer and a man, what would you like to see Tank do?
I believe in any of this shit. He made me do it. They start to see. Promoters know these things. You know what I'm saying? We trying to, in the words of Floyd Mayweather, I'm just trying to keep the playing field even. That's how he said it. That Floyd said it like that. I'm just trying to keep the playing field even.
And the safety of the sport.
And the safety of the sport.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like to clear that up. Now also,
Person put himself in Gervonta Davis's position and said, "If someone like Calvinford did to me what he did to Tank, I'd be forever grateful to him and he'll never lack anything in his life." Another person took Gervonta Davis's actions very seriously and called Tank a wicked person, saying, "He's so wicked I really can't be cool with someone like that. He's an ingrate despite all that Calvin did for him." He then went on to say, "Well, Calvinford has now revealed the real issue that caused US to split." Ford was asked a series of probing questions about the entire situation.
Tank does that, to get an eyebrow out of people. Like, you know how the Rock, when he put the eyebrow out, and he did get it. That's just like when...
Well, you really don't listen to just one side of the story. But if everything that was said was accurate, then Gervonta Davis must be completely different from the incredible boxer that he knew. Calvinford continued by discussing their interactions, then discussing the sacrifices he made for Gervonta Davis and how he has been with him to realize his son's desire to watch over him for the remainder of his career.
Everything just happened.
Sorry.
Y'all get what I'm saying?
That's right.
And that's all I got to just...
Unfortunately, Ford has not received any recognition for his work and has already given up on Tank, which is why he has been trying to implicate Gervonta Davis in any manner he can. In a live interview, Calvinford revealed that there is more to Gervonta Davis than what the internet meets. He also disclosed that, despite his impressive knockout percentage and unstoppable career, there is a great deal of corruption from Tank behind the scenes. Tank's main weapon has been psychologically bullying his opponents and using his power.
Want to happen?
Yeah, they're getting their excuse ready.
Say it again?
They're getting their excuse ready when they lose.
Come on. I just know this right now, like, we ain't in the personal game, but again, we sending a message through him for the rest of them. He's playing boxing. They ain't giving him the real strip.
Therefore, anyone who can resist this bully will probably resist his power. This was the case in his fight against Lamont Roach, where he did everything in his power to intimidate the Washington fighter. But when he was outwitted, he started to swell and was unable to do much to protect himself. This also occurred a few years ago when Von Davis faced Isaac Cruz, and the two of them went the full 12 rounds. Cruz was able to resist his bullying antics, and it was one of the final bouts of Davis's career. Calvin Ford recently disclosed another significant weapon that he uses against his opponents. It's performance-enhancing drugs.
Bad. I heard him so bad with everybody leave out they said, gosh. Then the rest of them behind this want to think about it. They don't give us our props. We don't want no props. We want to like show them this is boxing, right? We're gonna show you.
Hey, Coach.
With these drugs, for some reason, the boxing governing bodies have either not found out or have chosen to ignore the fact that Donnie Tank Davis has a physical advantage over his opponents, which allows him to lose the opening rounds and take punches without becoming too exhausted. Calvin Ford is now disclosing this information so that the public will have a better understanding of who Donnie Tank Davis is and everything he has done to earn his victories.
If you go back to history, they did the same thing. That's why Leonard was like, they did the exact same thing. That's why Leonard said, we're the A side. They handle that. Our job is to handle the fighter. The fighter job is to handle the fight. So when he speak about his team, this is team right here.
Calvin, do you feel disrespected right now?
No, I feel disrespected because the shots that he shot, and they kept going with that same narrated from day one.
Calvin Ford is also saying this because he is prepared to cause Von Davis a lot of trouble and take away all of his boxing honors. He is also planning to beat him in his upcoming fight, which is quickly approaching on March 1st. One of the most contentious boxing matches in recent memory took place between Von Davis and Lamont Roach Jr., and the entire boxing community was demanding to see these two fight again, so that the majority draw decision from the first fight could be put behind them.
Doing that. You go look at Tank, all this fight. That was the first fight in a long time when Tank first started. His body was that defined. You saw his body?
It soon became evident that both parties wanted a rematch and have Sports Illustrated report about it, with a date and venue for Davis versus Roach 2 appearing to be finalized. Chris Maggs announced that a Tank Roach rematch might take place as early as June 21st in Las Vegas. Both parties are now committed to running it again. Fans have been debating on social media which of these elite fighters will win the second showdown. Some fans are supporting Roach, as evidenced by an ex-user who shared the pictures from the previous battle showing Roach crushing that man again, Buddy.
He like boxing.
Are you open to immediate rematch?
In my contract, immediate rematch was signed. I signed for the immediate rematch when I signed for the first fight.
Right.
Just in case he lost or just in case it was a draw.
So when you got a rematch clause, how long we taking?
It's up to that.
In a sign that they are supporting Davis for the rematch, another fan shared a gift of a cockroach brandishing a lightsaber. For instance, one fan wrote, "I think Roach won the first 5,113, but I think Tank will make adjustments and win the rematch. Tank, I think Roach will be very competitive, but Tank will KO him in the later rounds." The excitement for this fight is only going to grow as the anticipated rematch date approaches. But before the rematch, the boxing community must get to the road of Devon, the usage of performance-enhancing drugs by Davis.
Tank won the rematch. Did you let me know now? Did you want to fight Tank again? He said he opened to do a rematch. Did you want to fight Tank?
100%. It's only a matter of time. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight again. It's just whenever the fight gonna happen.
So it's gonna happen.
It's going to happen.
Okay. They said they want in New York again. Do you want to fight again in the Barclays Center?
I want.
Now that we know why David Davis stood so resolutely in support of Ryan Garcia during his suspension, it is clear that he was concerned about his own future as well because, according to their revelations, he has been a dirty fighter. This was not a scenario in which one of the gang members was apprehended and the others fled with Jaron. Rather, he stood and defended his own against the entire boxing world.
Go look at Ryan fight and go look at Ryan versus Devin and go look at my fight versus versus Ryan. You can tell that Ryan didn't look no different. If he looked any different, he probably looked worse. He just was a bigger person, much slower.
In the midst of Ryan Garcia's case, Dan Davis took to social media to express his anger at the attempts to disparage Garcia's recent victory over Devin Haney, saying bluntly that they are doing everything in their power to deny Ryan the victory in a show of support for his fellow boxer. Davis denounced what he saw as a coordinated attempt to discredit Garcia's sporting accomplishments music hours after the news surfaced. Davis jumped on X with a stinging message for those accusing Garcia of cheating because he was so eager to discredit Haney that he took it out on others who were rooting for Devin Haney. Surprisingly, Davis jumped to Garcia's defense after he tested positive for a prohibited substance on 2 different tests that VI took the day before and the day of his shocking victory over Devin Haney last. The Baltimore native claimed in a since-deleted tweet that they would stop at nothing to deny Ryan the victory. If that were the case, they would ban Eddie Hearn, the head of Silver Spoon.
What's the beef with Eddie Hearn? That's the question I'm with. He's a snake in a suit. That's all. He's a snake in a suit. Bro, he let, what's the guy's name? Conor Ben test positive and was still going to let him fight.
But Davis soon realized that one tweet was insufficient to convey his disgust. So he tried again in a subsequent one that was also removed. In it, he attacked the entire boxing world for supporting Garcia and accused Eddie Hearn of some serious offenses. Every boxer on my timeline who says Ryan cheated to hell is straight-faced, including Fant. When he fought, nothing came back positive, and he fought on the side of Dazin, with the promoter obviously wanting his fighter to win and getting put in. Eddie has a reputation for getting into trouble. Wrote the comment made by Von Davis did not sit well with Davis Hearn, who has been promoting Haney since 2019 and has a long-standing relationship with him. In fact, he blamed me, saying that I was an idiot. In response to Davis's post, Hearn told IFL TV, "I've already messaged him."
On an Eddie Hearn show? Or does it need to be?
No, because I can't trust Eddie Hearn. You can't trust Eddie Hearn. You can't at all.
Why are you standing with Ryan Garcia over this? How can you stand with Ryan Garcia over the failed tests?
See, another thing. You know why I'm backing Ryan? Because a lot of boxers.
The one thing about Devin Davis is that he does say some things, but why do you delete your tweets? You want to say, yeah, Eddie Hearn is a dirty guy for doing this. What the hell are you talking about? And then he goes and deletes it. In any case, I apologize, but I wasn't involved in collecting Ryan Garcia's blood and urine samples. He then claimed that Garcia was being set up and took another shot at Hearn, which the promoter confronted in his private conversations. The undefeated star as Davis gets ready for an anticipated rematch later this year. One veteran voice in the sport is making headlines for pointing out what he believes to be a serious weakness in Tank's current game of weakness that could cost him again if left unchecked. Interestingly, Ryan Garcia's father, Henry, has now spoken about his son's fight with Lamont Roach and given him advice ahead of their rematch. At a press conference for Ryan Garcia's impending fight, Henry Garcia, the father and coach of Davis's former opponent Ryan Garcia, gave his candid opinion of Tank's most recent performance to Fight Hub TV. Senior Garcia didn't mince words.
You see how serious why didn't it take 72 hours for the test to come back, right?
Came back after the fight, yeah.
Right. So why ain't come out that Tuesday or that week next? They waited till Canelo fight to push that he had something in his drug. Then
to Gervonta Davis, it is so painful listening to this guy who knows absolutely nothing, right? And he's like, I don't know if you saw the clip. He's like, yeah, what I want to know is, like, how comes they let him fight if he had it in his system?
His legs aren't as strong as they once were as his age catches up with him. For a fighter who is only 30 years old, Garcia Sr.'s suggestion that Davis no longer moves with the explosiveness he desires was startling. Garcia also questioned a major coaching decision Davis made ahead of the fight with Roach. Instead of having longtime mentor Calvin Ford lead his corner, Barry Hunter took charge, sparking speculation. Garcia Sr. believes this switch may have played a role in Davis's underwhelming showing, adding he switched his trainer, which could be another factor. Though Ford later clarified that Hunter took over simply because of scheduling conflicts, not because of any fallout. Garcia Sr. and others remained unconvinced the change had no impact. When asked if he believed Davis had done enough to win GCA, didn't mince words. There's no way you can say that Tank won. There's no way despite the controversy. Davis remains undefeated, but with his reputation on the line, a rematch with Roach is reportedly in the works for June 2025 according to Boxing Kingdom. The rematch may take place in Las Vegas, although some insiders are pushing for a return to New York, where their first bout was a sellout success. Michael Woods, a respected boxing journalist, pointed out that both fighters are East Coast natives, making New York an appealing option.
You know, he switched his trainer, that's could be another factor.
With Barry Hunter being the head trainer and Coach Calvin being outside.
Yeah, but he snapped at Calvin too, so that's, there was something going on. I really don't know, and I couldn't really speculate on that because I
Yet given Tank star power and Las Vegas's reputation as boxing's mecca, the final decision will ultimately rest with Davis and his team. However, if Davis wants to maintain his standing as one of the sport's elite and avoid another disappointing result, he'll likely need to address the concerns raised by Garcia and others. His mobility, trainer alignment, and overall sharpness will be under a microscope. Heading into the rematch with Roach eager to prove the first fight wasn't a fluke, and Davis determined to reassert his dominance, fans can expect fireworks when they meet again. The big question now, can Davis silence the doubters and show that he's still the same fighter who took out Ryan Garcia in devastating fashion, or is his era as boxing's lightweight king starting to slip away? Against Henry Garcia's advice, we will most likely see Barry Hunter in Dan Davis's corner again, especially considering the fact that Dan and Calvin Ford don't look like they'll be back together.
something was bothering Tank, because Tank is a good fighter, and he's out to hurt you, but hey, Lamont Roach stood in there, stood his ground, and he did a great job.
And with Barry Hunter failing to get a win in his first fight, it's likely the same will repeat itself when next Von Davis faces Lamont Roach. It was supposed to be another routine night at the pugilistic office for Von Davis and company this past weekend. The moment his showdown against Lamont Roach was announced, Team Davis never appeared concerned or unnerved. Roach was a familiar face and had a more than respectable record, and while he did hold a title, he was considered the smaller man, viewed as a sizable underdog. Roach fought like a man with something to prove from the beginning. He boxed beautifully from the outside. When Davis forced him to abandon the jab and fight on the inside, he had no issue.
You could say Tank won. There's no way.
Do you think that he's diminished in some way, or do you think that just mentally he just wasn't there for the fight?
Well, a little bit of both. His age is catching up to him. His legs aren't there as he used to be.
By the time the final bell rang, fans inside of Brooklyn's Barclays Center stood dumbfounded. Although they enjoyed 36 minutes of pure violence, they were unsure who would be awarded the victory. As the scores were slowly being tallied, Team Davis patiently waited, and the grins that were etched upon their faces were eventually wiped away as their man was forced to settle for a majority decision draw. For the first time in his pro career, Davis walked out of a ring without an official win. As he slunk into his chair backstage, his team, including Barry Hunter, shook their heads in disapproval at the decision. Hunter, who was pushed into the leading role ahead of Calvin Ford, believes the judges got it wrong from his vantage point. Davis had his hands full.
It was about 2 or 3 o'clock. I don't lost track of time, dates, and everything. Yeah, it was a spirited fight. And if you remember earlier on when we spoke at the Barclays, and actually on the All Access, I told you then, Lamont is a very skillful fighter. He can fight, he's from the area.
There would be no point in being mendacious about it, but he's fully convinced that during the last few rounds, Davis turned a close back and forth battle into a clear-cut win. We take our hats off to the other side, said Hunter to E! News, but I thought down the stretch the last 2 rounds sealed the deal. I thought we pulled it off. The only hope for Dan Davis in the rematch is if he takes his craft so seriously, like he said he would after the fight. The sad draw against Lamont Roach made him reveal that he was only going to take a week out of boxing to rest and relax before resuming within a week.
In that DMV area, there's a lot of talent, and nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to lose. So I knew it was going to be a hard.
Regardless of whatever is happening with Von Davis, boxing fans are heavily anticipating the rematch against Lamont Roach. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.